We're going to start in just a few minutes. We're going to, oh my goodness, I think we're totally in business.
Hello.
Okay, I see when we first started that we did it wrong. Well, I did it wrong. Noemi did it right. Okay, so yeah, I think that we have 16 people here now, so I think we can just go ahead and dive right in. But first, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming and for being part of the group. It's fun to show my face. I'm a real person. And it's fun to just kind of moderate and to comment and to just watch your careers grow. And yeah, so thank you so much for being here, for being part of a community that I think has been really productive. I appreciate you guys. So I wanted to do this Facebook Live today, and I've been trying to find different ways to add value to the group. And basically, the reason why I wanted to start with this topic, being a freelance writer, one of I think the most time-consuming and intense just part of the process of like producing a good article is research. And recently I came across a tool called Waldo. There's a link to it I could probably put it in the chat too. It'd be really helpful if you like click on it. It's a free tool, so you guys don't have to you don't have to pay for it or anything, but I've come across this tool and it's really just helped me with my research process. It's helped me speed things up. It's helped me find data that is good. So I wanted to hop on with Noemi. I will let her introduce herself now. And then we're just going to kind of talk about my research process, some of my pain points, and then, she'll ask a few questions, give us some insights, and just kind of help us, navigate this tool. So go ahead, Noemi, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Have been also following your Twitter feed with great interest, because I think you talk about these topics like freelancing, research, and writing in a way that's not so dry. And we approached the space from a research standpoint. So we're a team of research nerds. We had been working all together for 8 years on an outsourced research company called Ask Wonder, which went through many different phases of growth. But you could ask a query, and then our team of outsourced researchers would follow up with a typed up PDF and some great sources to answer, to respond to your query a few hours later. And in the process, and so we were really in the business of giving people research reports, and in the process we noticed they spent so much time just searching the open web and navigating to page 16 of Google. And so our team of nerdier engineers than I developed some algorithms to do two things. Send complicated queries to Google so that the results that Google sends back would be better, but also analyze the Google results to triage them and display information differently and give additional search features so that you can pinpoint, that needle in the haystack. And so our researchers used it, and we have a couple thousand researchers on the team, and they were really excited about saving so much time. And we thought, wow, probably we should, make this more widely available. And this was around a year ago. And so when we started out as a new company, initially we really focused on researchers. And it's only by coming across, different people on social that I started to, pay attention to writers and really content marketing, I think, and marketing writing, strategic marketing is taking on such an importance in the way that we do commerce, both from an education and from an engagement standpoint, that it makes sense, and the more serious writers rely on data points, they rely on insight, they rely on original, fresh points of views. They don't want to just rehash content. And so when I talk to people in your profession, I noticed they were spending a ton of time on research. And so I'm so glad that we can have this discussion, because we're still a nerdy team of researchers. Our team is less than 10 people, and this is the very beginning of what we're building. And so the more feedback, the more input we have from you, the more we can design a tool that's really made for you. So that's a little bit about us at Waldo. And my name's Noemi, and I'm in California.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. As you were talking, it just got me thinking as well. Something that I think is important to mention for writers, especially right now. There's been a lot of chatter, a lot of talk recently about like AI tools that do writing for you. And on like a very, very basic level, the tool will work. It will, and they're good for some reason. They'll generate an outline for you. They'll give you some very basic content, and some people will pass that off as content. But I think research is one of the huge differentiators where these tools just they absolutely cannot keep up. There's a lot of ways in which they can't, but I just think it's like a huge differentiator in creating like really relevant content and really, really hot content that slaps, just like great content, is making sure that you know the recent trends and that you can find the recent trends and that you can infuse that into your writing. So with that being said, I'll kind of transition now into my process for research. And it can vary a little bit depending on what kind of writing I'm doing. I typically write long form content. So I write the blog posts that are, 3,000, minimum 3,000 words. And I write a lot of ebooks. and with that type of content, my clients, like, as you guys know, the internet is super saturated with content. And so a lot of my clients, they're looking for basically information that is happening, like new trends, data that's interesting, different things that are going on and stuff like that. So usually what I do is I'll start with the topic, and I don't usually do SEO research just because that is an extra, it's a whole new world. It's an extra, and it's an extra task. I do think that this tool is absolutely useful for people who are SEOs in finding, what's ranking, keywords, search intent, stuff like that. But I usually take over once the SEO has actually done their research. I take over with the topic. So where I start is I start with the topic, and I do pop into Google. I'll see what's already ranking, what people are talking about, how they're approaching the topic, what reports they're using, what data they're using, what their headings are, what their subheadings are, basically we'll just kind of dive into what they're doing. Sometimes I use an SEO tool for that, but a lot of times I'm just using Google, and using Google just to basically find trends and find updated research. And so for me, it's really time consuming. It takes a lot of time to just scour Google and find things that are relevant to your topic. And this is one way that Waldo has been helping me. Noemi, I don't know if you want to jump in here and just kind of talk about how.
Sure. So maybe I can also try and share my screen, but I think there are two, I guess, questions I have is one, what is the part of the research where you're first getting informed, right? And whether that's a topic that's familiar to you or not, I imagine you first want to develop your own point of view, or at least get a sense for what is the established knowledge and how you're going to contribute to it. And then I guess the second is, when do you go from absorbing and into more executing and having a very clear, view into your storyline?
Right.
And so what I've heard, related to that from people is that in that first piece, to really gain information, they'll just open 1,000 tabs because they'll come across links and they say, oh, let me, control T, and then I'll revisit later to see if it's a good source. And so that's why we developed the ability for you to see expanded excerpts in the search result page, so you can skim all the results. And so I'm curious if this is a good time for you to just absorb and see what's going on.
Right. Yeah. As far as my knowledge on a topic, I typically write within the same niches. So I write about e-commerce, I write about marketing, I write about retail. And so I mostly write on those topics, but all of those topics, especially within the last 2 years, they are innovating so quickly. And I mean, really it's a huge group effort, which is why there's so much recent data and why there's so many recent trends. Like it's just changing a ton. And so for me, when I do that research process, my answer to that question would be yes, 1,000 tabs, like a lot of reading, and a lot of like, sometimes I'll have something in mind, but I just can't quickly find a report that I'm looking for. And so yeah, that, the Waldo has helped with that for sure. Is there a way that, is it allowing you to share your screen or not?
Yeah. So let me try and do that now, and then I can show. Maybe
and then
that's
we'll kind of show like how this works. Yes.
okay. All right. So let's say I will be looking at influencer marketing. Or we can just start there. So this is the Waldo search interface for everyone who's new to it. We decided just very quickly, we decided to lay information out a little differently by pulling out the source on the left side of the screen, and then the publication date on the right side of the screen, just because we thought, you might want to quickly get a glance for, what's available. And then we remove all the ads. So we don't even display the ads. So you know that everything here is actually an organic search result. So when you're, for example, approaching something for the first time, a lot of people like to use Skim. And so what Skim does is it's going to expand the results, all of the results that came through, and bold your search terms so you can quickly see kind of what's going on, what's available. Another way that people use Skim is to see, okay, how many sources are there that are actually relevant? And if they see that there's really not much, then they'll adjust their search terms more easily, as opposed to, spend 10, 15 minutes looking through results of a query that's not generating a lot of hits. Because of course, we don't control and you don't control the information that's available on the public web. And so it's always a bit of a factor, okay, what is your query like and what's the information in the public domain? So I'm happy to show a few of the specific features, but maybe it's better, Ashley, if you tell me what you're usually looking for, what big pain points you have, and we can maybe use this query.
Yeah, so one of the first things that I'm looking for is recent data. Something a lot of times, I think a lot of writers probably in this group as well, they do content refreshes. So you have a really good topic, something that is interesting to people, but the content that is ranking, or the content that is on people's blog that isn't ranking, is old. Like just everything that is from like a couple years ago. And so especially with something like, influencer marketing, it's changed so much in the past couple of years. And so for me, I'm looking for data that is within the past 2 years or something.
Okay. So we have a really great feature for that. So when you're in Waldo, if anyone's following along, right now I did Skim, which is the expanded excerpt. So I just deleted that, and then you type anywhere in the search bar, and we have a number of these filters. And if the people joining us are search wizards, they might be familiar with Boolean search queries, but Boolean search queries can be really tedious and long to write. You have to kind of memorize the commands, and so we automated them. And so for the type of query you're looking for, Ashley, what I would do is a after filter. And so what you can do is, if you, for example, want the last 2 years, then you would say 2020 August 26th, And then now all of the results that will be displayed will be max 2 years old. And so this is really nice, even if you want something hyper recent, so the last 3 months, it's really nice to stay up to date on a topic and just see, oh, what's come up more recently. Specifically for data points, we have, of course, a data point filter, and that's going to recognize numeric characters and kind of call out any quantitative figures in your search. So influencer marketing last 2 years, anything that's quantitative is going to be bolded. And so you can see, oh, look, the overall average price was $271 per post for micro influencers. That's a very quick way to have some really good data points and compare and contrast what's available.
Cool. So I use this all the time, just for everybody who's here. This has helped me. I think this is the bulk of probably what I use. But another thing that I think is cool and that has helped me is, like, say, for example, I only want it like data that is related to like Instagram.
Okay.
So
maybe
what would I do for that?
Maybe we could use the X-ray. So what X-ray does is it's kind of a control F. And so it's not going to change your search results. It's going to look inside your search results. So instead of doing a control F on a certain page, it can do control F over all of the pages in your search. And actually, when you click X-ray, so all I did was click X-ray. When you click X-ray, we give you the terms that come up the most frequently in your search results, and Instagram is right here. So let's try it out. If it wasn't here, you could type it out, and Waldo would search for that word within your search. And so here you have data points related to Instagram in the last 2 years for only we haven't changed your initial search. So Google's still sending out the same information. We're just searching within whatever Google is sending us. And there you have a quick view of what's available. I also think that for the kind of queries you're looking for, I think lenses might be interesting. I don't know if you've played around with them much, but a lens is, as you said, there's so much content over the internet, and it may be relevant or not to what you're specifically looking for in the moment. And so a lens is, a collection of sources that we have gathered in the course of those 8 years, that we worked with researchers on specific industries and topics. And so let's say, you're interested in influencer marketing from I don't know, what could we apply for lens? Statistics, I don't know, that's kind of boring. Maybe psychology.
I saw travel up there. Was that? I mean, that's.
Oh yeah. Let's see what travel. So maybe you're interested in influencer marketing in the travel industry. Oh, so that we're actually doesn't look so great because only TripAdvisor is coming up for this search. So maybe it's not the travel industry. Maybe it's when you're planning travel. We actually give you the list of sites that are included in the lens on the right. So you see.
I just want to pop in and say something too, because, and I don't want to forget to talk about this, but I think it's actually interesting too when something doesn't pop up, because that shows you something that you can pitch. Like if you're looking, like for example, that was TripAdvisor. Like if you want to pitch TripAdvisor and they don't have, and you're like, hey, I want to pitch this story about influencer marketing. It's a really easy way that you can search their site and see they haven't covered this topic. I can get in touch with the TripAdvisor editor, pitch them this topic, and I know for sure that they haven't covered this and that I have a great story about it.
Well, that's really interesting, to find an angle. So do you often pitch come to different companies with an angle to pitch to them, and you kind of have to do, the onus is thus on you to kind of find the right approach?
Yeah, so I'd probably do about 75-25. 75 people will, they hire me and they have an SEO team, they have a topic that they want me to write about and I go for it. But then there's the publications, like, and a lot of the journalists in the group are definitely going to use the tool for this purpose. But yeah, they'll be going to whatever, the New York Times or Washington Post or Vogue Business or whatever to be pitching a story.
Oh
And
yeah,
you want to make sure they haven't covered this, or if they covered it, they haven't covered it for 4 years, or they haven't had this new spin on it. So this is another reason why I like this tool.
Yeah, so I just use the social media analysis lens to then get you even more results, but it's getting really narrow. I think another way to do what you describe, I don't know, Ashley, if you've tried, is a site search. So for example, if you want to pitch the New York Times and you want to see what they've published about influencer marketing, you can search specifically on their site. Is it, yeah, newyorktimes.com. And then you'll see right away anything that's been published exclusively on their site. So you can see they've written a lot about influencer marketing, and that might help you find your angle.
Right. And that, at any time you can fine tune your keyword to match
Exactly.
the story that
Yeah.
you're going for.
One I really like, you were talking about original sources when we first interacted by email, and I don't know if you've seen the frequently cited.
Yeah, cover that, because this one's feeling new to me.
Yeah, so we tell you that 6 sources in your search results are frequently cited. You can also access them at the bottom of the screen. But so if you click on there, it's gonna take you to the bottom of the screen. And the cool thing with that is usually the most frequently cited sources are the original sources. They have the original data. And if not, they're often much more credible sites because people refer to them all the time. And so of course we have a lot of .gov and .edu that often show up here, but I guess what I infer, being new to this industry, is that these websites are deemed really credible because people will cite them most frequently.
Right. And that's good too. I put a call out on Twitter just asking about pain points for researchers. And I think that one thing that all writers deal with is trying to find the original source for something. Yeah. So you have this really great stat, but you're like, I don't know where this came from. And so that's great for that.
Yeah. And if you work amongst teams, the other thing that's really nice is that when you find a source you really like and you want to refer back to it in the future because you think it's a credible source, or you think they publish original data, you can add it as a source and then create your own lens. And so, if you, in the course of your work, identify 50 different websites that you find are really credible and reliable, you can search only within them. And then if you were to collaborate with a client or with some teammates, you could then share your lens with them. And that makes it really easy to collaborate while upholding the same standards, for the types of sources that you want to use in your work.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to check if there was anything, that I really love. I think, quotes are pretty great. One thing Waldo does that you can't really do on Google is we search through YouTube transcripts. And so if you're looking for information or data points, oftentimes some information like privately held companies might not disclose some information publicly, but maybe their management is on a podcast or an interview, and they would orally, disclose information that's a little harder to find. Waldo analyzes those transcripts, and those would come up as search results too. And so that's a really neat thing. Yeah, I think File type, if you mentioned that you look for good reports, so I really like using file type when I do that, and see it's giving me all of the PDF reports that
Ooh,
have been
I like that.
published on the topic. So oftentimes these tend to be, because they're long form and white papers with really great sources. So file type is neat too, because I think a lot of people do the work of manually searching through PDFs, but with
Right.
Waldo, the algorithm, the tool will search through PDFs for you.
Oh, so this is actually pulling the PDF. This isn't pulling the article. It's actually pulling the PDF.
Yeah, exactly. This is the information that is in the PDF. So that's why, X-ray is not always available, but we'll still show you an excerpt.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Loving it. I did want to talk about, so, and this is a question I guess I have, but I see emails up there.
Mhm.
Is it possible for a writer to like, I don't know, find an email for an editor or to find an email for an expert? Like, how does that one work?
Yes. So we don't, a lot of companies specialize in finding contact information, and they do that by having staff dedicated to calling and getting firsthand input.
Mm-hmm.
We just show you what's on the web. So if it's anywhere on the web, we'll pull it up. But this is a really, a really quick way to scan for that. So I just said food editor, New York Times,
Oh, cool.
and quote email, and here's all the emails that came up, right?
Great.
I could even just say food editor, I don't know, magazine, and then let's see. Hopefully, it's going to give us the email address of a bunch of different, uh, you know, magazines.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we also, I just noticed a question that in the comments, or someone is asking, is it available in other languages? We do have kind of a multilingual group here. Is it possible to search in different languages,
Yes.
or is it only English?
Yeah, it's available in other languages. We've sometimes had, and you can always, we're really responsive to feedback, so you can always let us know through the tool. Right here, you can share feedback if anything is not working as it should. You can, by the way, while I'm here, also use Bing instead of Google for the underlying search results, so you don't necessarily have to query Google. On the languages, sorry for this little sidetrack, when it's a language with a different alphabet, sometimes there are a few little kinks, but we've come across this with Arabic and Hebrew and have troubleshot with the users. So let us know if you come across any issue, but it is available in other languages.
Oh, cool. Very good. And then I guess one more. Well, actually, I'm gonna pivot because then I think we can get to that. So, I just want to go back a little bit to my research process, if that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So basically, after I start with this preliminary research, the next thing that I do is I create just a skinny outline that tells a story, and then from there, and also sometimes people will provide me with an outline if they have like an exact story they don't want me to tell, but most of the time I'm creating that myself. And then from there, what I do is I create a dump doc. And the dump doc is pretty ugly. I don't know if can I share my screen?
Let me stop sharing mine, and then I think you can.
All right, how do I do this? What do I press?
Bottom left.
Bottom left? It's giving me two.
You see the little icons, mute video,
Nope.
call
Well,
participants, and then at the very left.
I'm really good at technology, you guys. All right, well, for whatever reason, I'm not seeing that. I'll just explain it to you. Yeah, so essentially I pull everything into a dump doc, and this basically it'll have my skinny outline, and then I'll just take everything that I found. So I'll take, any data points that I found, any articles that I want to consider, any expert quotes and I'll put it in just this ugly dump doc. And then from there, I fine tune and I start actually writing the article from there. So usually when I'll have basically three Google Docs open. I'll have my brief and my outline. I'll have my dump doc, and then I'll have like a clean outline that I flesh out with good writing. But let's see. Yeah, and then from there, I just basically put everything together. Another thing that I did want to talk about as well, and this kind of goes back to adding adding value in light of Google's update is another thing that I do is I like to interview subject matter experts and pull quotes. Blog writing and content writing, it's kind of changing a little bit in that the more that you can do to offer like really recent information, really expert information, the better, the higher it's going to rank and the better it's going to resonate with people. And so one way to do that is to kind of take a journalistic approach to things. And I wouldn't say it's total journalism. It's kind of a fuse, but if you can, find subject matters to expert and infuse those quotes, and that's an excellent way just to make your content to stand out. So yeah, as important as the qualitative research is, or the quantitative research and the data points are, I think that qualitative research and talking to primary sources is equally as important.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It sounds like really to create something custom and meaningful, you would identify a source and reach out to the person to get an original quote from them, as opposed to searching for an existing quote. That's great.
Yeah, and sometimes I think, I do use quotes that come from articles sometimes, and I think that you can use that you can find.
Oh yeah, we have a quote filter.
Do you want to pop in and show that real quick? But yeah, sometimes I will, use quotes that support my argument, even if someone's already said it elsewhere. But yeah, I'll look at Twitter. There's so much value on Twitter. Just people are talking about relevant things all the time there. I use Help a B2B Writer, and I'll put some of these in the notes so that you guys can, here we go, help a reporter out. This one can be
Harrow.
Yeah, I would say it depends. Like this one's okay. Like sometimes I get really good stuff and sometimes I don't. Help a B2B Writer. This one is really good, you guys. Put that in the comments. And then Quoted is another one, just spelled with a W because they're fancy. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna turn it back over to you to show this last thing.
So I just looked, plant-based food nutritionists, and thought, maybe we can find some good quotes from nutritionists. And I think this one is pretty nice. A lot of quotes come up from nutritionists who, as you guess, promote a plant-based lifestyle. So that's a really quick way to get, some good options if you're looking for something that's, a secondary source publicly available. Yeah. And then, that's it. I think we're so curious if anybody tries it to know how we can improve it. I loved hearing, Ashley, about your ugly dump doc, because we're hoping that's the next thing we're working on. And we're hoping to give you a really easy way to drag and drop into and export your findings. And then you could even save them and have the source automatically populate. So I'm excited when that launches to see if it can rival with your Google Word doc.
I imagine it will for sure. Okay, well, I think that kind of we have to talk about. Is there any questions? I don't know if you guys, maybe we'll open it up for another minute if you want to type in a question. If not, we'll just wrap it up and be on our way. So any questions coming through? Let me just scan it really quick. I answered the question about how much time I spend. English. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, well,
Um,
thank you guys for coming, and thank you, Noemi, for your time.
yeah, thanks for having
Yeah, if
me.
you guys haven't tried it, you try it. It's awesome. Okay.
Thanks, Ashley. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.